Right, friends. Today we're going to talk about the future of discoverability, because I want to talk about this from the context of publishers, how the audience funnel is changing, and why discoverability is so important for the future. We all know this. There's a lot of data out here to suggest this or variations of this. Google search referrals to publishers fell 33% in the year to November 2025. Discover fell 21% in the same period. This is data from Chartbeat from a 13-month spread from 2024 to 2025. As you can see, US fared slightly worse, and you can see that Facebook and X, in fact, went up, but that doesn't tell the full story, because both of those platforms have gone down 43% and 46% on May 2023, respectively. And social went first, it went before search. This is an important piece of context for us to consider. So Twitter or X is down 70% since 2022. Facebook is down 63%. Facebook was the largest source of referral traffic to publishers per that Chartbeat data, excluding Google, of course, and it was down 63% over the same period. All platforms are trying to keep users in their ecosystem because it is far more valuable for them to do so. Google was slightly different because there was a better value exchange for publishers, but that doesn't exist in the same manner as it did. And a huge part of that is because over 68% of searches in the US, at least, now end without a click. This is according to Spark, Toro, and SimilarWeb data. And this is up from 60.45% in 2024. So this is a huge change. And this shift has been growing consistently for the last few years and long before AI platforms and systems came into place. Searches producing any kind of click fell 22.9% over the same period, and no country in this panel sends more than 300 clicks to the open web per 1,000. Users are being trained not to click. See, the UK and the US are the two most adversely affected countries. The EU is slightly better, and that may be because AI overviews have not rolled out at the same rate, or that there's stricter EU legislation in place. But we can't blame AI mode for this. AI mode plateaued in the US at about 0.13% of total visits, still accelerating in the EU and the UK, but it is a fractional share of the total visits that Google processes. So this is not an AI mode issue or problem. And this is not solely a search problem. Every referral channel, as we've just noted, is following the same curve. Search shows it most sharply because search always delivered the most and the best value user. We can discuss attribution modeling another time, but last click attribution meant that search was by far and away the most valuable channel for publishers. So behavior is changing. It's not just the platforms, it is the behavior of people. And before we go further, it is still worth noting that Google sends over 1 trillion clicks a year to the open web. They disclosed a while ago that a couple of years ago, they send more than 5 or process more than 5 million, 1 trillion searches a year, up from 2 trillion in 2016. Applying the 68.01% US zero-click rate, that's roughly 1.6 trillion searches a year. And if you want that to be more granular so that you get a better understanding of what that number means, 4.4 billion a day, 183 million an hour, and 3 million a minute. This is broadly from Barry Adams, but I will and he will tell you that your competitors will thank you if you give this channel up. You cannot ignore it still. We do need to update the discovery funnel. And this is where a lot of the work around discoverability that we've been doing comes in. I think there are now 3 key phases to consider for discoverability and discovery. You have passive discovery and the early stage encounters when people encounter and evaluate your brand. And this is predominantly social led. It is led by people, by creators. And the evaluation phase is led a little bit more by search, AI assistants, if those exist for publishers, Reddit, news aggregators, YouTube. Once you've gotten through that passive phase and you get them into the active phase of discovery where they have some intent, they're on your website and they want to be engaged and they want to see a consistent experience from your social channels to your website and your app. And then, if that is good enough, they want to see you through the own discovery phase. They want to come back. They want to be informed by you because they trust you through your email, your push notifications, your app, your newsletters, and your journalists before they finally become advocates and fans through your community, where they help grow and build your brand. And this is a really important thing to consider when we look at the outcomes for each phase and stage, where we want awareness, trust, value, habit, and loyalty, because this is what teams and people should be optimizing for and understanding. And discoverability is the probability that the right person meets your content, whether or not they were looking. And that's an important distinction now. It's not specific to search or social feeds. It is everywhere that you could be found. It is measured by presence where your audience already is. So really the key test, I think, is would they have found you if they hadn't been looking? That's how you need to show up. I would call it breaking the scroll is what you have to do now. And people spend so much time on their screens for so little time on publisher websites. You have to force them there by being good enough. And there's 4 forces that really broke this search-led journey. So the behavior of people is changing, particularly younger audiences, which we'll come on to. Walled gardens, platforms monetize retention, so they exit. The exits are engineered out. Commodity information has been answered before a click is required. AI has monopolized and consolidated the majority of evergreen content and how-to guides, which is not necessarily a bad thing because it means that publishers can focus on better quality stuff. And people trust a person. Now, they do not trust a brand or a masthead. And this diagram is exactly how all of these big tech companies work. They identify a moat. For them, a lot of the time, that's big data. And they open the gates. They open the gates to you in a free or freemium manner. And then they close for monetization once they have you hooked. This is how this works. Very interestingly, for Google, and why I think it's so important that you do not neglect this huge channel still, is that based on the latest iPool rank report, which is really excellent using Datos clickstream panel data over a 13-month period, over 13 billion search events used, they found that only 14% of clicks are navigation, i.e. branded searches. So the other 86%, they think slightly less because of the way this panel was done, but up to 80% or slightly more, clicks are discovery-led, which is an extraordinarily high number and much higher than we previously thought. So the Google is less of a navigational engine than we thought. And part of this same study showed the difference in audience behavior where the 55 to 64 age group are 7 times more likely to click an advert than the 18 to 24s, and 18 to 24s zero-click search at 52.3% versus 42.7% for older audiences. So you have to know who your audience is so you can predict and understand their behavior. And in terms of how Google search behavior has changed, just a couple of quick stats off this over the last couple of years. There are 7.2 percentage points more repeat searches, which is a really high number. There are 22.9% fewer more than one clicks or any clicks at all journey. So what is happening here is people are searching more and clicking less. And as trusts move from mastheads to people, Google are not stupid. They understand what is happening and why or how an audience is changing and what it means for their platforms. And I think this is what they're trying to do with Discover. Because younger social media users or younger users pay attention to people, not traditional media. They read less, they watch and listen more. So Google is trying to make Discover more of a creator ecosystem. X became the number 4 Discover domain in the UK and US in December, surging after Google's core update, thanks to Newsdash data. And Google itself has said it's making Discover easier to find, follow, and engage with the people you like. So more social, more video on this platform. I'm sure this is their plan for this, is to try and make this an emotional hook for younger audiences. And based on what most media leaders are saying, creator partnerships in YouTube are where they want to invest, and this will have huge benefits in search as well, and Discover. Growth means presence wherever the audience is influenced. Every surface with a search function can be optimized. Google now exposes social account performance in Search Console, which is the clearest signal we've ever had that social influences search. Ambiguity is penalized. You need clear entity and clarity about who your brand is and what you do. That's a very AI-specific thing. And attribution is very, very difficult now. I think you have to accept that last click is completely broken, and you have to accept that you can't track this perfectly, but what you can do is monitor when changes are made and see if there are uplifts or shifts post those changes. And part of this reason why visibility, or rather attribution, is so broken is that AI visibility pays out in branded search. And this is the way that search has always worked, really. It is a last-click channel, and it is so profitable because of it. But what happens is ChatGPT and these channels do not send clicks. They are not designed to. They are designed to answer your queries in their system. But an AI recommendation made users 2.5 times more likely to visit that brand within 7 days, with no referrals track. And 56% of those visits arrive via branded search, against roughly 40% for standard visits. So this is a huge shift, obviously, and this will never be attributed to AI. And this is how search has always profited from different channels. And publishers still do plan AI distribution investment for citation and brand influence rather than traffic, which means they understand the ecosystem. And I think what they could do a little bit more effectively is to understand their influence within it if they are not blocking these platforms. And obviously the problem for most publishers is that they have built a system around reach and volume. And the highest volume content is largely the most AI exposed. Media leaders now rank service journalism, general news, and evergreen content less important to focus on, which I think is broadly the right thing to do. And quite obviously, subscriptions and memberships lead the revenue focus at 76%. So everybody is trying to move away from this system of reach and volume, which is not a bad thing. And it is important to note that there are still success stories for publishers, maybe in areas that you wouldn't expect at a very challenging time. So someone like Wirecutter, very recently, their affiliate revenue's gone up 7.1% to $75.5 million in Q2 2026, which did coincide with the search visibility jump at the end of the May core update, as you can see in the graph below. The Atlantic now has 1.4 million subscribers. It's been profitable since 2024, and they have really focused on high quality, not quantity journalism. They have removed the commodification, and they are working with the same model, but doing less to do more, much like the Times are doing. And probably the most interesting one that Wired started doing last year. Obviously, Wired is a brand with pretty good heritage in this space. They ran a talent-led video and creator strategy. They are building influencers. They are turning their journalists into people of influence. So there are ways still to be successful, and I have no doubt the industry will begin to figure this out over the next couple of years. So what we're talking about here really is that we are not just competing for rankings anymore, we are competing for moments. And the hardest part to understand is the moment before the intent exists. This is passive attention, where people are just scrolling mindlessly. They want to be inspired, but they almost don't know it. And you have to break the scroll. So you have to win the moment that gives you the chance to build a relationship. And as we go through the passive, active to own discoverability journey, I think it's important to understand the different job that each stage is doing. You're reaching people algorithmically, you're solving what the answer engine can't, and you are creating a consistent experience. And then you're bringing people into your own ecosystem to build a community. I think the best way to try to deliver on this is to have a really good quality composite engagement score or composite discovery score that your newsroom or content teams work off, where you're able to tweak each section so that you have a passive section, which relies on video views, impressions, saves and shares. Active view is your engagement time, internal link clicks, whatever it might be, video completions on your site, returning visitors. To the own section where you talk about things like newsletter registrations, push opt-ins, comments. And then you weight these differently to try and encourage the right behaviors from your journalist desks and teams, ultimately to either improve your passive discovery because you know that's where you're weakest, or your own discovery. That ultimately is what you're trying to do here, I think. And really what this all has to be, what we all have to consider is that journalism and content has to be more than the article now, because that isn't good enough to satiate people. So we want to move from demand through to solving something for someone, so that every topic earns multiple different mechanics. Explainers, breaking, lives, video and audio, tools, community, things that solve real problems for people throughout their day. This is inspired from Dmitry Shishkin's excellent work, because you're trying to form a habit. The test, as everyone will tell you, is if you vanish tomorrow, would your audience care? Have you been solving anything for them? Have you improved their quality of life? And I'm pretty sure that the winners of all of this will be very audience first, people powered, distribution obsessed. They will really understand how marketing works, which I don't think publishers have been good at for a long time. It'll be audience first, understand their audience needs and who they are. Be people powered. They will promote the people within their organization. Their KPIs will reflect this. And they will be obsessed with quality distribution. So be video and audio native, be present on all the right surfaces. They will understand how this works. And one of my favorite tips for this kind of stuff is always the golden hour rule. This is really how lots of algorithms work. But the first 60 minutes of your content is so important, because every algorithm has an understanding or a prediction of how well your content should do within that first 60 minutes. Discover is a perfect example of this, but X's algorithm is out there for you to find as well. If you outperform your expected engagement within the first 60 minutes, you're far more likely to go viral. So you have to force that content there. You have to share it. Your people have to share it. It has to be on your homepage, your newsletters, your social accounts, whenever the right time is for it to work. And all of this clearly requires structure, governance, KPIs, not just intent. You need an audience intelligence arm. Publishers have audience teams. I think they could do a lot better at understanding who their audience is, what their needs are. It's a distribution arm. And again, most companies have social teams, but do they really intertwine with the audience team and the data team to understand exactly where and how they should be posting and what that strategy should be? And then product and engineering teams who can work with all the different desks, who can rove around departments and ship things quickly, tools, products, whatever that might look like, because this is how you can create habits, and this is how you can take people from the passive stage of discovery through to the own stage of discovery by creating a brilliant, consistent, concise relationship between these areas and with people, because people just want to belong. That is, I think, discoverability and the changing variations of search surfaces and social platforms. In a nutshell, you have to be discoverable, consistent, and memorable. And for us, this is, of course, a lot of the work that we do around SEO, AI risk and resilience, younger audiences, Google Discover video and audio and other platforms. Really, I think what we do is we help you be discoverable and understand your audience. Hope that was useful. Until next time.